Insurgents struck Jibwa, leaving scores of soldiers dead. Traore's name didn't appear on the casualty list, but the assault had his name written all over it. So, is Burkina Faso's leader now the intended mark? Let's unravel this. The headlines exploded with alarm. Armed militants aligned with insurgent networks breached a military base, executed their strike with ruthless precision, and vanished without a footprint. But beneath the bloodshed in Jibwa lies a darker motive. This wasn't random violence. It was a trap. And Captain Ibrahim Traore was the bait they hoped to lure. Zoom in. The attackers didn't occupy land. They didn't ransack supplies. No civilians were taken. No flags raised. Their real mission: precision optics. They hit hard, captured the wreckage on video, disappeared, and left behind a shapeless catastrophe. No fingerprints. No face. As predicted, foreign media erupted. Burkina Faso losing grip. Insurgents gaining ground. Is Traore slipping? The headlines read like pre-written scripts. Too timely, too rehearsed. This wasn't insurgency. This was engineered pressure. The true target wasn't Jibwa. It was Traore's stability. The goal? Trigger an overreaction. Sow doubt. Undermine his strength. Force internal whispers of disloyalty. Make the myth of his invincibility crack. And it almost did. Within 48 hours, regional diplomatic channels buzzed with activity. Coded dispatches. Intelligence reroutes. Quiet overtures to centrist factions embedded deep within Burkina Faso's system. In simple terms, Jibwa opened the gates for a soft coup to be seated. No gunfire. Just power slipping, quietly, away from Traore's grip. This playbook isn't new, it's vintage. A familiar pattern. A rising national figure preaches sovereignty, dignity, and local control. Then he makes deals that bypass Paris or Washington, and suddenly, chaos finds him. He starts to win the hearts of the rural poor and the urban youth. He becomes a symbol not just for his country, but for all of Africa. Then, out of nowhere, his enemies appear. Sometimes they wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear NGO badges. Sometimes they say nothing and let the chaos do the talking. But always the goal is the same. Discredit the symbol, shake his foundation, remove him without a martyr. Traore has become that symbol, and Jibwa was the first attempt to destabilize his myth. They want to drag him into a war of desperation, drain his resources, force him to call for international help, or better yet, trigger internal fractures that remove him without having to soil a single foreign hand. And right now, he's surrounded by shadows. Advisors are warning of surveillance drones appearing near his motorcade routes. Communications are being jammed in key border regions. International agencies are offering support packages that come with strings buried in the fine print. The battle isn't at the front lines anymore. It's circling the president's chair. The question now is whether Traore sees the trap for what it is and whether he can stay one move ahead. Because Jibwa wasn't an isolated strike. It was an opening move in a much longer game that doesn't end with one attack. And if Traore missteps now, they won't need to fire another bullet. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. No army has crossed Burkina Faso's borders. No foreign power has declared open hostility. And yet, Ibrahim Traore is being surrounded. This is how modern coups begin. Not with tanks, but with tension. Not with missiles, but with manufactured silence. And after Jibwa, the pressure is no longer on the battlefield. It's closing in on Traore himself. Day by day, channel by channel, handshake by handshake, that now doesn't happen. It begins in the boardrooms of Western finance. Since the attack, international investors have quietly backed away from infrastructure projects. Development banks have reassessed their risk profiles. Regional insurance underwriters have hiked premiums on Burkina-based shipping routes and trade corridors. On paper, it all looks like prudent financial behavior. In reality, it's economic pressure disguised as caution. The trap is elegant. Traore, having refused to bow to the IMF and other debt lords, now faces a liquidity freeze without a single sanction being declared. Gold trade flows slow down. Mining audits stall. Foreign subcontractors flee. and all of it is designed to say one thing. Without us, you cannot function. But this siege isn't only economic. It's diplomatic. Since Djibouti, high-level Western diplomats have gone silent. Embassies have cut back on engagement. No messages of condolence, no offers of support, just a carefully coordinated absence that speaks volumes. Behind the scenes, however, pressure is building. Envoys to ECOWAS states are reportedly urging neighboring leaders to distance themselves from Burkina Faso, painting traore as reckless, unstable, and dangerous to regional peace. The goal: containment, political quarantine. If they can't remove him, they'll turn him into a pariah. And in parallel, a more insidious front is opening. Narrative warfare. After Djibouti, the headlines were fast and brutal. Traore losing grip, security failing in Burkina Faso. But pay attention, almost none of the stories quoted Burkina-based sources. Almost all relied on external monitors, anonymous analysts, or prepackaged briefings funneled through familiar Western channels. This isn't just biased reporting. It's perception manipulation, a controlled demolition of legitimacy. If the world believes Traore is losing, then allies will hesitate, investments will freeze, and local confidence will crack. That's the hope. Erode his support without ever confronting him directly. But what makes this siege truly dangerous is how internal actors begin to bend under this pressure. Bureaucrats who once pledged loyalty now stay silent in meetings. Regional governors begin to delay instructions. Some military officers worried about foreign blacklists start thinking about self-preservation instead of national defense. This is how isolation becomes suffocation. This is how a revolution dies without a single bomb dropped. Yet Traore stands, and perhaps that's what frustrates them the most, because the Djibouti trap didn't catch him. The financial squeeze hasn't broken him. The media storm hasn't shaken him. But make no mistake, they are still tightening the noose quietly, constantly, patiently. And unless the circle is broken, Traore won't need to fall. He'll just be cut off inch by inch until the Burkina Faso he fought for, the dream of an African country standing tall without permission, becomes just another cautionary tale told in hushed voices. As the financial news tightens and diplomacy turns cold, another arm of this war slithers quietly beneath the surface. The recycling of violence as a controlled political tool. The affiliate insurgents who stormed Djibouti weren't rogue agents acting out a religious crusade. That's the cover story. In reality, they were part of a carefully timed performance unleashed not to conquer, but to destabilize with surgical precision. These aren't independent actors. They are weapons rented by invisible clients. Here's how the game works. These groups don't control territory for long. They don't build governance. They don't declare policy. What they do repeatedly is strike critical points in the state's nervous system. A base here, a road there, a grain reserve, a hydroelectric dam. Always just enough to interrupt, to provoke, to expose. Then they vanish. It's not ideology, it's function. Insurgents like these don't need to understand geopolitics. They don't need a seat at the table. Their purpose is to create the pressure that forces someone else's agenda through the back door. One attack in the north, and suddenly a foreign security proposal re-emerges. One bomb on a convoy and a delayed foreign mining contract comes up for renegotiation. Coincidence? Ask any analyst who's seen this playbook in Libya or Mali or Sudan. First come the raids, then the rumors, then the vultures. But this time the script is being resisted, and that's what makes Burkina Faso a threat. Traore isn't asking for help from the usual suspects. He's not calling on the international community to mediate. He's not allowing troops from the same government's funding numbers to suddenly assist with stability. And that breaks the cycle, which is why they've turned the insurgents up like a volume dial. More attacks, more whispers, more headlines. But who's turning that dial? Look at the flow of arms. None of these affiliate groups manufactures weapons. They don't run logistics chains. They don't fund their own communications networks or distribute propaganda in 5 languages. Someone is supplying that. Someone with access, infrastructure, and interests. And it isn't a bearded commando in the bush. It's men in suits, corporate middlemen, foreign handlers, retired intelligence assets working under deniable cover. They're not launching missiles. They are authorizing shipments, not dropping bombs, but approving payment schedules for cooperative informants and tribal security partners. The chaos is made to look local, but the fingerprints, they are foreign, and the goal isn't total collapse. It's managed disruption. Just enough violence to weaken Burkina Faso's state machinery. Just enough fear to drain public trust. Just enough fear to make Traore look overwhelmed, but never enough to spark a full revolution, because full collapse would mean losing control, and control is what they want to keep. So these affiliate insurgents, these so-called enemies of the West, often appear just in time to serve Western interests. That's no accident. That's a tactic. Traore knows it. His circle knows it. The people are beginning to suspect it. But suspicion isn't enough anymore. Not when proxy warfare is masquerading as internal unrest. Because when a nation bleeds, but the wounds always open at the most convenient moments for its enemies, you're not looking at an accident. You're looking at an operation. And in Burkina Faso, that operation has a name. Regime recalibration. The question is, who's next on the list? Is it Traore? When surrounded, most leaders either fold or freeze. But Captain Ibrahim Traore is doing something unexpected. He's building not just barricades or bunkers, but an entirely new state model forged under pressure, designed to survive in the absence of international approval and intended to inspire others across the continent. While affiliate insurgents hit the north and financiers circle the economy, Traore is laying down the foundations of a parallel Burkina Faso, one deliberately disconnected from the systems that made it vulnerable in the first place. And is doing it silently. First, domestic production is being militarized, not for war, but for sovereignty. In the past few months, Burkina Faso has begun channeling emergency funds into homegrown food processing, small-scale energy grids, and rural defense networks that operate outside formal bureaucracies. These aren't press releases, they are quiet revolutions. The message is clear. If they cut us off, we'll grow through the cracks. Second, Traore is building new economic corridors that bypass the old choke points. In partnership with Mali and Niger, trade routes are being rerouted inland away from Western-monitored ports. A new agreement with Algeria is reportedly in the works to open a northward land and supply route to the Mediterranean through Sahelian terrain. A logistical nightmare, but one worth solving. This is more than logistics. It's a symbolic rejection of inherited geography of maps drawn to ensure dependence on colonial railways and coastlines. Third, Burkina Faso is digitizing resistance. In a move many underestimated, Traore has quietly commissioned local developers to begin working on secure offline-capable communication platforms. A decentralized system that could keep civilian coordination intact even if foreign-backed actors disrupt national networks. Why does this matter? Because control of the narrative has always been the first step in overthrowing. The one who speaks last speaks loudest. Traore doesn't want to be silenced and is preparing for the moment when information becomes a battlefield. Fourth, and perhaps most strategically, Traore is transforming ideology into institutional memory. In schools, youth councils, civil training programs, and even militaries, a new doctrine is being written that Burkina Faso must never again be run by external interests. This isn't empty nationalism. It's a survival mechanism, because history has shown any revolution not grounded in a doctrine becomes vulnerable to infiltration. And Traore seems to know that ideas outlive bullets. He is now doing what leaders like Sankara died before completing. Building institutions that don't need Western validation to function. And yet all of this is being done under siege. While affiliate insurgents strike supply lines, while investment dries up, while foreign operatives probe his inner circle. This is not a response. It's a counteroffensive, not with force, but with foresight. Because Traore seems to understand one brutal truth. Burkina Faso may not win by outgunning its enemies, but it can win by outlasting their attention span. If the empire relies on shock and disruption, then Traore is betting on slow permanence. The idea that while they panic for headlines, he builds for history. So while the world watches for another explosion, the real story may be this. In the middle of a siege, a new nation is quietly being born. Ibrahim Traore has outlasted the ambush in Jibwa. His sidestepped isolation. has begun building a new Burkina Faso quietly while under siege. But survival is not the finish line. It's the first test. Because what comes next won't be a battlefield skirmish or media campaign. It will be something far more dangerous. The moment when his system, his people, begin to ask the question every revolution fears. How long can we hold on? Traore's greatest challenge now isn't avoiding the next attack. It's proving that his vision can deliver faster than fear can spread. He has to move beyond resisting collapse and start generating results. Because insurgents can terrify a region, but only internal disillusionment can break a country. This is the moment when external forces will double down. Not with brute force, but with temptation, offers of discreet deals, technical assistance, humanitarian corridors are attached to conditional clauses. All of it wrapped in urgency for the people. All of it meant to lure the system back into dependency, not through violence, but through fatigue. And if the people lose patience, if rice prices spike again, if salaries stall, or if roads stay broken 1 month too long, then the same voices that now cheer for sovereignty may start asking, was it worth it? This is where most revolutions fail. Not on the battlefield, but in the waiting room. So Traore's mission now must be threefold. First, consolidate loyalty before convenience takes over. That means he must root out fence-sitters and subtle saboteurs in his administration. Those who nod during meetings but quietly place calls to embassies after dark. He cannot afford to be surrounded by people playing both sides. Not now. Second, decentralized pressure. His entire survival cannot rest on Ouagadougou's shoulders. Regional governors, village chiefs, youth brigades, they must be brought into the project not just as supporters but as builders. Let every province feel it owns a piece of the national recovery. If they feel it's Traore's plan alone, they'll watch it collapse. If they feel it's theirs, they'll defend it like family. Third, and most critically, Traore must tell the truth before someone else tells a lie louder. He can't sugarcoat what's coming. The nation is under attack, not just by insurgents with rifles, but by contractors, by banks, by smiles and suits. The people must understand that this is not a normal time. It's a front line disguised as policy, a war disguised as aid. If he names the enemy, if he explains the stakes, if he shows what's being built and why it matters, he keeps the fire alive. But if he stays silent too long, if he lets the narrative drift, let doubt grow in the quiet, then Djibo won't be the beginning. It will be the blueprint repeated, refined, and redirected straight at his heart. Because his enemies have one final card: patience. They've watched Africa rise before. They've seen sparks of sovereignty flare up, only to burn out when the world looks away. Their hope is simple, that Traore runs out of momentum before they run out of time. So now the burden isn't just on him, it's on everyone watching. Because if he falls, it won't be in the headlines, it will be in silence. Do you think Traore is that easy to break? What will he do next? Let us know in the comment section, what do you think Traore must do? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.